Hi guys, good morning. It's Paul from VITA. Welcome. Um, Again, you guys will be on mute, not me on mute. We are recording. You guys will get CE. Don't worry. Um, what I was saying is the reason I'm not on camera here today, guys, is because uh, we are moving into a new office and we're building a new VITA Academy, which is super exciting. So we've got a lot of really fun stuff coming soon. So this is kind of the progress so far. We're hoping to be open. Hopefully, we're crossing our fingers by Lab Day West. It'll be really cool to kind of share some of that. So what I was trying to share with you guys here is some of the stuff that we kind of showed off at IDS in Chicago. If I had a chance to catch up with you guys at both shows, awesome. For the rest of you guys, I feel like I haven't talked to you in a while, so I want to kind of share with you some of the really cool stuff that we have available now. So this is kind of the way that they were presenting this in at IDS was kind of the full versatility of the workflow. That now that we have the print resins, you kind of have you can mix and match all kinds of different options here. And um, so that's where I was trying to get to. Um, Here is we have the digital tooth library. um, that it comes in uh, two versions, um, both the free version, which is available. You can either download it from Exocad website or from um, the control panel in 3Shape. And uh, the free one is paired with the carded Vigo teeth, which I'll show you a little later on. And you can manufacture the base, then glue in the teeth. And then the paid version allows for the export of the tooth design, so you can manufacture the teeth too. And what's cool about this, again, is the setup combinations. That they come in perfect occlusion. So, you know, if I do absolutely nothing and I finish this and put it on an articulator, then it should have all of the contacts, it should function in all the excursive movements. So it saves a ton of time during kind of the setup and design, which is really cool. So I know you guys saw these slides, so I'll catch you up on the audio part of it. And I was kind of getting into here kind of the economy and talking about the different workflows. So we previewed this in Chicago, and then presented it at IDS. And that is our print resins. We have the Tri-N resin, which is the tooth colored, the base resin, which is a impact resistant base resin, and of course our tooth resin, which is a ceramic reinforced um, resin. So it actually has a really nice wear rate, very similar to the Vigo teeth in our dent disc. So it wears a lot nicer than a regular PMMA, which is cool. And of course, it matches the Vita shape. So um, for those people that have a workflow that really embraces the economy, or your demographic really kind of demands that, then this kind of offers that solution where you can print the base, you can print the teeth. It's quick and fast, and makes for a great economic workflow. Kind of the one that they're calling Smart is kind of a mix and match that this is a lot more of what I see kind of here in the States, is where they will print the base and then mill the teeth. And so they're using kind of the speed of the print option for the base, because milling takes quite a bit longer, um, to produce the base, and then milling the teeth for the aesthetics on that, because the dent disc is a multichromatic um, disc, which is pretty cool. And then what they're calling kind of the premium would be like a milled base and then milled teeth, or the glue in Vigo teeth. And um, you know this I see a lot more like with my denturists in Canada, just because of the way their workflow is designed. Uh, they have more of an opportunity to do the milling of the base and milling of the teeth, or that kind of an option. So what's cool now is, like I said, because we have all of the different options, you can kind of mix and match however best meets your needs. So this is another example of the dent disc and the base disc being milled. Um, this is one I did for one of the courses I did this last year. Um, and then, of course, finishing. So whether you're milling, whether you're printing, whether you're mixing and matching, you're still going to have to, kind of assemble and finish them. Um, So some of the options, this one is really exciting here, and for any of you guys who have done some of this with us before, you'll be really excited about this. We now have the Bionic Bond multi-dose. So before it was kind of a single one-to-one kind of kit, and now the multi-dose is about 25 of those in one of these kits. So it should be good for 25 arches, which is really awesome, because it brings the cost per arch way, way, way down, and it saves on time and material. So this one I'm super excited about, because this is what we use for the assembling here of the teeth and the base. And then, of course, characterization. You guys have probably seen this. If you have heard me talk at all, I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about this. The Accent LC is our light cure stain and glaze, which is just all kinds of awesome. And these are some of the different colors and the chroma stains that it comes with. We also have our VMLC, our light cure flowable composite. So if you really want to get into the characterization, you can use that as well. One of the things I've been talking about a little bit is the Harvest Easy Gum, which is a really cool way to add some pink composite, very quickly. This is an example that I did with Panthera this last summer. So this is over that dent disc. So this is a milled dent disc over a bar with the Easy Gum composite and some Accent LC stain and glaze. So again, you can mix and match materials. You can mix and match workflows, and it comes out really, really cool. So also kind of stay tuned once we get our new learning center open and running. We've got some cool partner projects coming up. One of them is with Panthera. Another one is with Asiga. If you saw some of the printing stuff before, it was all with off my new Asiga printer, which is really cool too. The other thing, the other application for this are VMLC or the Easy Gum. The composite is also over zirconia. I get this question a lot. I know this is kind of a digital dentures thing, but On the ceramic side, people want to know if it'll go on the zirconia. Yes, it will. It does require a bonder, but it will go on there too, which is really cool. So this is kind of a quick overview of kind of the VITA Bionic options that are available right now for our digital denture workflow. And I know some of the naming sometimes can be kind of confusing. So, the Bionic is more or less the umbrella name that VITA has given to all of our digital denture products. So when you see that kind of in there, that's what it means. But like I said, when we were talking about the versatility of the workflow options, um, you've got the free library, you've got the exportable library. Um, we've got some different temp materials if you need those. We've got the milled options, we've got the print options, we now got the bond, and of course the characterization at the end. So kind of however it works best for your workflow, there is a solution, which is pretty awesome. Before we get into this, I actually want to jump over and look at the software here. So let's go back to here, and I want to show you. I don't have ExoCAD on here today, guys, so I'll show you in 3Shape. But if you want ExoCAD, again, shoot me a line, and I will be happy to share that with you also. But this at least will kind of get you an idea here of how to set up some of these different options. So. Um, in the 3Shape software, for the software to recognize that it's a denture, you need to include the second molars. Whether we decide to actually use them in the design or not doesn't matter. We can decide that later, but we have to include them so that the software knows that it's a denture. We have to tell it that it's got teeth. We want to tell it that it has artificial teeth. That's important. And then the second important thing here is to pick the material. And this is where kind of knowing which workflow and how you're going to manufacture this kind of comes in handy or comes in important here. Because if you're using our library, this is the way it's kind of set up. So if I'm going to use the Vigo, the glue-in teeth, they're pre-manufactured. We're not designing anything. There is no design file, and the software's not expecting it. So I would actually pick the Vigo teeth if I'm going to use those. If I'm going to manufacture the teeth at all, whether it's mill or print, then I would select the dent disc option. At the moment, I don't have a material option in there for our print resins, although I can create one and probably will on the next update. But essentially what it does is it tells the software that, hey, we are going to design these teeth and we're going to manufacture them at the end, so give us all of that option. And so by choosing the dent disc, that'll give us all that function, even if we decide to print it, it's no problem. So for this, I am going to select that. It will select the manufacturing process as milling because it is the dent disc, but don't worry, we can get by that later. The second option here is bridging these. Because we're going to manufacture these teeth, the best selection is to bridge them. Obviously, if we're doing the Vigo, you can't bridge them because they're pre-manufactured. But if we are going to manufacture them, it's easier when we do bridge them. You can do them all in a single arch, and a lot of the examples that we show are like that. Um, Especially if I'm doing it out of the dent disc, and this is more of a manufacturing thought. I typically will bridge them anterior 6 and posterior 4. And the reason is because if I'm milling it in the dent disc, if I do a single arch, I can get 2 arches out of a dent disc. If I break it up like this into 3 pieces, I can get 3 arches out of a dent disc. So it saves me some material and some machining time. So um, also, it's a little more aesthetic, and it assembles nicely too. Um, the other cool thing too, and not to confuse you guys, but you can also kind of mix and match processes too. If you end up in a situation where you have maybe limited space in the posterior, um, then what you could do is actually do your anterior 6 in the Vigo because they're very aesthetic, and then you can manufacture your posterior teeth, either milled or printed, and then you can compensate for that lack of space in the posterior. So you can even mix and match workflows that way too, which is kind of cool. But for this today, for this example here, once we have the teeth in there, we've bridged them. We do want to tell it that we have a base. It defaults to the dentures gingiva. And then, of course, here are the options that are important. Um, the first one here, this Vita Bionic base with artificial teeth, manual reduction. This is the one I would use if I was using the Vigo, the glue-in teeth, because that essentially is telling the software that, hey, we're designing this, we're using pre-carded teeth, we're not manufacturing the teeth, there will be no tooth design file. So it won't kind of be expecting that. If we are going to manufacture the teeth, then I would select this one here, the Vita Bionic base with designed teeth. And that essentially tells the software, hey, I'm going to be designing this teeth and I'm going to be manufacturing them at the end. I want a manufacturing file of the design. So that is the way I would select it if we're designing the teeth. Um, Both ways, this one or this one. Um, Once we get done at the end, it will give us our output files for the base and the teeth, but it will also give us an output for the monoblock. So even though you see that option here, as long as we're doing one of these other ones, it will give us the monoblock automatically. The cool part about that is um, that um, if we use the monoblock for our try-in and the try-in goes well, then we can go directly to the manufacturing because we already have our design files. We don't have to go back into the software. So again, it saves time. The last option down here is the manufacturing process, milling or printing. And I will show you guys at the end kind of how that affects our design and what we can do about it later on. So if you know you're going to mill or print, you can select it. If you don't worry, you can always change your mind later on. So uh, I am actually just gonna, so here you can either scan, it will ask you for an upper, a lower, and a byte minimum. You can always add a scan if you want to. Or you can import files if you have, if somebody sent you the scans, like your clinician did an intraoral scan, you can import it that way too. For this, I'm just going to actually cancel out of it and go into this one. And this is one that I use fairly often for a lot of my demos. Um, I'm going to skip through most of this because I've covered it in a lot of other of my webinars. And, um, if you guys want to know, you can always check out some of my past webinars, or you can email me and we can talk about it too. But I want to show you guys some of the stuff here that's kind of relevant to the milling, printing, and the manufacturing options like I was talking about. So, and again, when we're talking about doing all of the design and the dentures here, um, there's a lot of excitement and a lot of confusion, especially when we call it digital dentures versus analog or conventional dentures. And, to help avoid some of that confusion, I have started to argue that, there really is no such thing as a digital denture because it's really difficult to define, there are still pieces of this process that are still analog, and that's okay. That at the end of the day, what we are doing here is we are making dentures. We just have some digital tools that we can use to help improve or simplify the process. So, if that kind of helps as you're thinking about it, then um, yeah, you can kind of look at that. So the first part of that I kind of skipped through is, the model analysis. And a lot of those steps are the exact same steps we would do on an analog model. The surveying and the blockout. You guys should be doing that on your analog models too. So a lot of the process is exactly the same. It's not really a different, um, something super different. So here's our teeth, our proposal. Again, here's what the tooth library looks like. And we've got our different options: lingualized, crossbite, buccalized, and of course here we've got the lingual straight, the Dutch LOC, so all kinds of mix and matches. We've got the combination chart, which helps you select the lowers and the posteriors. Or if you want to do your own, you can always uncheck that and then pick whichever ones you want to use. So that is super cool. But I am going to move along here to the next step. So here gets us into some of these pre-manufacturing stuff that I wanted to talk about. That somebody asked me just the other day, because we were talking about it, about some of these settings for base thickness and relief. These are the default settings from 3Shape, and I have found them to be perfectly fine, and I use them for just about everything unless I need something specific. I definitely would not go any lower than these, but this works as a really good baseline. The gingiva aesthetics, again, this is one I don't want to spend a lot of time at the bench grinding, my festooning and that kind of stuff in there. So these are some of the presets. I like the intense or the extreme one because it gets me further along on the way I like it to look, but I encourage you guys to kind of play with that a little bit. It definitely helps save some time and add some really cool characterization to your designs. This manufacturing setting here is what I was talking about in the setup. That if we select milling, then it will check that box and it will allow us to essentially calculate our design based on the tools we're using in our mill. If you are exporting this and sending it to somebody else to mill, then I wouldn't worry about it. These are for the guys that are doing it in-house and really care about all the, cool nitty-gritty settings and stuff. That most milling centers are using a 1mm burr as their smallest burr, and most of the this stuff is actually designed to be milled with a 2 millimeter burr. So, um, this doesn't come into as much of an issue as it does like in the crown and bridge side. Um, but if you guys want to play with that, that's what that mill versus print does. If you're printing, you can always just uncheck that and ignore it. One of the other courses that we're planning to do when we open up our new education center, I'm going to do a workshop just on manufacturing, so we can really get hands-on and into all the nitty-gritty on milling, printing, and all of that kind of cool stuff too. So if you guys are interested in that, please hit me up, let me know, and I'll let you know when that is available. Come on, think faster. I know you can do it. There we go. And essentially this is all the same thing on the lower. Yes, yes. So this is that drill compensation. So again, the the limitation, of course, is the geometry of the machine itself. And if you have some deep, under pockets or something like that, that the mill can't get to, then that drill compensation will more or less calculate for that. But like I said, it's more of a crown and bridge issue. I don't run into it very often on the denture side. So calculate a little faster here, buddy. Almost there. This also has the options here if you want to add a little relief. So if you have like a tori or something in there and you want to add a little extra blockout, you can do that with this function or at this step also. And there we go. Cool. So these are some of my recommendations or the way that I do it here. So again, because we bridge these, it's allowing us to kind of set how we want these connectors to look. Again, because I want my most aesthetic stuff to be facial, I usually take the connector settings and turn that facial side all the way down to the lowest, which is 70%. And if I need extra, then I'll add a little to the lingual, but usually the default is pretty good. And let me show you what that looks like here. There you go. So you can kind of see the connectors a little bit on the lingual, but that way it pulls it way back from the facial side so you don't see them hardly at all. And allows us to sculpt on the anatomy if we want to. I don't know why you would want to because it's beautiful VITA anatomy. The next step here is the sculpting on the denture base. So this is where I was talking about, doing the festooning and kind of where those presets tie in. I'll have to look. I think this is one that I've already designed. But like I said, the presets kind of will get you about 70% of the way there, and then you can kind of finish it off however you want. I like to add more texture to mine because that's the way I like mine to look. If you want yours to be more smooth, you can always smooth it out too. Yeah. And we're almost there. There we go. Yeah, and again, this is one that I already did, so I already added all my characterization and festooning in there. Um, the only other manufacturing kind of tip I will put or I will mention is depending on kind of how you add, your anatomy there, milling versus printing. I've found that depending on the mill and the settings that I use, um, sometimes I have to over exaggerate my anatomy a little bit to come out the way that I want it to look when I'm milling it. Printing, it usually comes out exactly how it looks. Um, all the little fine details and stuff. So that's just kind of an extra tip on that one there too. Um, Let's jump up to this next one. So this is the coupling mechanism. Essentially what that is a path of insertion for that bridge as it goes into the base. And um, for the most part, I have not run into a um, I've not run into a case so far that the default did not work just fine. I expect there might be some weird application where I need to insert it at a different angle for some reason, and that's kind of what this is for. Um, but so far, I've not run into any kind of issues, so the default works just fine, and I usually just kind of skip past it. If you end up running into something where the default doesn't, please let me know. I would love to see it because I haven't yet. And then we'll talk about the pre-manufacturing one next. Um, that here, this is going to remind us that it's a base with designed teeth, that we did both the teeth and the base. The drill compensation, again, if you're going to mill it versus printing it. But this is kind of the important one here because there's a couple of different options now that with the that economy print. One of the options in the printed workflow is to use that uncured resin as the bonding agent between the teeth and the base. And the reason for that is, again, just for speed and economy. Um, the recommendation, though, if you're going to do that, is to have a glue space of about 150 microns. So that's why probably in the update I will add um, an option for the printed material so that it will automatically set that um, glue space to that. Um, you don't have to do it that way. For a lot of the demos that I am doing in-house, even on my printed ones, I'm still using the bond to bond them together. You can do that also. If you are going to do them that way, then you should use the same glue space that you would use for the dent disc, which is the 80 microns. Okay, so when we picked the dent disc, it gave us the 80 microns. So if you're going to use the Bionic Bond for either a printed or milled, then I would use the 80 micron tooth gap. The Vigo, if you select the Vigo one, then it will preset that tooth gap to 40 microns, and for the Vigo, the 40 micron works pretty much perfect. So that's another kind of tip and recommendation as far as some of these different manufacturing options and the glue spaces and kind of how it affects and how to set it up. So that is mostly what I wanted to share with you guys. Um, Finally, of course, let's see. I just wanted to show you guys. So it will output all of your files here. So you will get your monoblock. Uh, there you go. As well as the base with the tooth pockets. Oh, and this one looks like it's a Vigo model, but it will but if you do the teeth, it will also have uh, the teeth. Let me see if this one has it. No, I think that's the same thing. Sorry. Dent disc. There we go. So I'll show you guys the cam just so you guys can see the teeth too. Maybe, maybe not. My computer is slow today. Um, I'm kind of getting towards the end of this, so if you guys have questions, go ahead and type them into that box and I will answer some questions. Yeah, there we go. There's our base again. There's our teeth. So it will also generate the tooth files again, so you can mill or print however you guys want to. And let me see. All right, I do have a few questions here. So let me try and get through these. Can this be used on the Sprint Ray? So I have a list of all of the validated print materials on our website, or if you email me, I can send it to you. We really want to validate it on the Sprint Ray, and they are on our list. Sprint Ray is busy with a bunch of other things right now, so um, we are kind of on a back burner for them, but our hope is that we can soon. But if you check out the list that we've got on our website, then that'll give you should a list of all the stuff that is. Can it be repaired using? Yes, absolutely. Treat it like a PMMA. You can repair it, reline it, all that kind of stuff exactly the same way you would a regular denture base. What's the wear like? Yeah, so the wear on our dent disc, our print resin, and our Vigo teeth is all very comparable. That was one of our big goals when we manufactured it, was to keep it as close as possible to um, the carded the the carded denture teeth that everybody is used to using. Um, do we need to push the tissue when scanning the molar pad areas? So that is a great question um, for taking records, and I really would love to talk a lot more about it, and we just don't have enough time today. Um, but yes, that is one of the limitations of intraoral scanning or digitizing the record taking portion of it, is because it's really hard to compress the tissue or to do any of your border molding and that kind of stuff with an intraoral camera. So um, it depends on what you're trying to do. Um, the best results I've seen is to actually, do a wash impression and and then scan the impression. Usually I get the best results from that. Um, if you are scanning just for like an immediate or a quick, or even just doing a scan to make a custom tray, and you're going to reline it or something later, then I wouldn't worry about it as much. So um, So hopefully that answers your question at least a little bit. If you want to know more, please shoot me an email and we can definitely discuss it in more depth. Um, what kind of courses we're offering in our new training center? Oh man, too many to list. Um, but we are hoping to introduce along with it a course catalog that will be available, and we're going to try and approach it a little bit more with the topics as kind of like a basic, intermediate, advanced, so you can kind of decide um, um, what level of information or how into the details you want to get on some of these topics. And yeah, so we should have a lot of stuff available. Check back with us, check on our website, and we'll have some more information. This question is, do you have any wear testing on the Accent LC? How long should it last? It's a great question. Um, Typically when we're talking about how long does the stain last, does it wear off, we're usually comparing it to um, our ceramic stain and glaze. That's kind of the benchmark everybody uses, and for ceramic stain and glazes, the statistic on that is it will wear somewhere between 3 and 5 years. um, so when we did our testing on the Accent LC, the wear on that is somewhere between about 2 and 4 years. So it's actually very comparable. And it's long enough that the patient shouldn't ever notice and should wear very similar to the way it does on a crown and bridge stain and glaze. So yeah, great question there. Um, And another question about scanning. Do you think intraoral scanning of edentulous arches is advanced enough for accuracy? And again, it really depends on what you're trying to do with it. This is a great topic, and we could probably do an entire webinar just on that. But um, again, I think before I kind of mentioned some of the limitations of the intraoral scanning. It's hard, you can't compress the tissue, you can't border mold, so you're never going to be able to do that with an intraoral scan. As far as capturing the arch itself, the upper arches typically are much easier to capture because you have the hard palate to act as kind of a reference. So I have had a lot more success scanning the upper arches. The lower arches is kind of, it really depends. If you have a lower arch that is very flat with and not a lot of ridge, then it's really, really tough for that camera because there's not enough uh, distinct data for it to correlate with. And so, yeah, lower arches are a lot tougher to do. So, again, it depends on what you're doing. If you're trying to do, a preliminary impression to create a custom tray, then yes, I would totally do it. If you're trying to do definitive or master impressions with an intraoral scanner, probably not going to get the best impression. For that, I would do a custom tray, or the other technique I like quite a bit too is to either use the denture or a duplicate of the denture as your custom tray, and um, um, taking a wash impression of that and then scanning the impression itself. That most of the intraoral scanners now have an option for scanning the impression and then creating a model from that. So it's a pretty common workflow and works really well and captures most of the information that you're going to need. So um, if you want to glaze with the accent, do you have to microblast or can add glaze to a polished surface? Deglaze the teeth or the base. So depends on what you're doing. The best results I always will sandblast the teeth and the gingiva first because that will create a little bit of mechanical retention. And um, so I will usually do my stains over the top of that, but always make sure that you clean it really well, steam clean or scrub it with soap and water to make sure that there's no residue. That's typically how I process it. If you're going over a polished surface, and so the application that I would see here would be more like if you're doing an enamic. So enamic is our kind of hybrid ceramic polymer, and because it has the polymer in it, you have to treat it like with the light cure materials and stuff. And so a lot of people will polish that occlusal surface so that there's not wear and abrasion on the opposing, which I do recommend. But if you want to characterize, you can always add the accent over the top of it. Will it stick to a polished surface? Yes, it will. Will it wear off faster? Yes, it will. So ideally, I would, if you know it's going to be long term and it's not an issue, I would sandblast it. If you have an application where you need to go over a polished surface, you can, but just be aware that it will wear a little faster, but usually that's okay. And do I do the teeth and the base? Um, it depends on what I'm doing. Typically, if I'm milling or printing the teeth, because they've got sprues and all that other kind of stuff, I have to finish them anyway. So yes, I will glaze them. If I'm doing the Vigo glue-in teeth, no, I don't usually glaze those because they look so beautiful right out of the package. So um, hopefully that answers your question. I know we're right at kind of the time here. I'm so glad you guys are excited about this. Thank you for all of the questions. If you have any couple last minute ones, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, sorry, let me actually jump back over to my slides here um, and do kind of a final. If you guys have questions, please feel free to reach out to your local reps um, and they can answer questions about the products. We've got some more stuff coming up for webinars. And of course, as soon as our Learning Center is open, we'll have a list of courses for that as well. This is me. So if you guys have other questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Um, this is where you can find me. So thank you guys so much for joining me today for the webinar. And again, if you guys have questions, please reach out. We will look forward to seeing you guys next time. So everybody have a great day.